Live from the Cloudy Sky Fantasy Football Show, our review of the year, see the winners and losers, as we take a look back at how the inaugural Cloud FF season panned out. And I was looking back at the first time I did one of these videos, almost 10 months ago to the day. It was the 31st of July, and Cloud FF had only been in existence for about 3 weeks at the time. For those that remember, Sky sort of pulled their plug, I think it was on the 7th of July in the summer, saying they weren't going to do a game. And between myself and FF Stuff, Mike Warlow, we sort of put our heads together, came up with a workaround scheme where people that enjoyed the Sky game could play something very similar. We needed the game engine for phase 1, so we used TFF because it was a way everybody could sort of get their team. Then Mike's wizardry in the background managed to get all of the sort of the TFF points based in Cloud FF data, and yeah, we've sort of had a good run this year. Some ups, some downs. A bit of hard work, a lot of support, a lot of cajoling from a lot of people in the community, and it's been great fun. So we're going to take a look at how the final game week played out. We'll have a look at the leaderboards overall and in some leagues. Have a look at how my team evolved at various bits of the season, and then we're going to have a look through some player stats, who did well, who did less well. We've got a very good zombie team of the season, and then we'll have a brief look at what's coming up over the summer, and let everybody disappear off for their summer holidays. So let's have a look at last week, see how the points were scored. So obviously all of the games kicked off at the same time, so we'll go through them alphabetically. So it's Bournemouth 2, Leicester 0. Semenyo with both goals for Leicester. Tier points, triple tiers, nothing for Bournemouth. For Leicester, we had Justin with the tackles and Stolicic with the saves. Fulham 0, Manchester City 2, which got Manchester City into the Champions League. Goal scorers were Gundogan and Haaland with a penalty. And there was no triple tiers at all in that game. Ipswich 1, West Ham 3. Goal scorers for Ipswich was Broadhead, for West Ham, Ward-Prowse, Bowen and Kudos. And triple tiers, only Edison Alvarez for West Ham with the tackles. Liverpool 1, Crystal Palace 1. Liverpool celebrated the title, Crystal Palace celebrated the FA Cup. Goal scorers were Ismail Sarr for Palace and Mo Salah, of course, were for Liverpool, and Salah tied the goal scoring and assists, so goal involvement record for the season. Triple tiers, only one, which was Virgil van Dijk with passes, 101. Manchester United 2, Aston Villa 0. Aston Villa coming up short in their quest for Champions League football. Manchester United turning them over, having been turned over in the Europa League final the previous Wednesday. Very contentious. Well, it wasn't such a VAR decision, because once the ref had blown the whistle, nothing VAR could be done. But it looks like Rodgers should have had a goal that stood. But mainly Martinez might have been more to blame for Villa losing with his very reckless red card. Goal scorers for Manchester United were Diallo and Ericsson with a pen, which Bruno gave to him. I think it was going to be Ericsson's last game for Manchester United. Triple tiers, so for Manchester United, Bruno Fernandes with both the passing and the tackles, Mason Mount with the shots, and Martinez, he did make 5 saves for a triple tier before he was sent for an early bath. Newcastle 0, Everton 1, which didn't cost Newcastle a Champions League place. They still made it due to events at Old Trafford. Goal scorers for Everton was Alcaraz Triple tiers, Pope with the saves for Newcastle, Pickford for the saves for Everton, and Alcaraz with the shots. Nottingham Forest 0, Chelsea 1. Another game which got a team into the Champions League and one out. This time it's Chelsea that qualified. Forest go into the Conference League, which, to be fair, is probably a competition better suited to them and a squad size they've got. Less games, easier opposition. They might even be able to get away with playing quite a few of their second string in that league this year, or this upcoming year. Goal scorers was Colwill for Chelsea, and no triple tiers at all. Southampton 1, Arsenal 2. Goal scorers for Southampton were Stewart. For Arsenal, a much changed side. They had Tierney, I think that might be his last game for Arsenal. He scored, and then Odegaard scored off the bench. Triple tiers, Ramsdale with 6 saves for a triple for Southampton, and Gabriel Martinelli with shot tier for Arsenal. Tottenham 1, Brighton 4. Tottenham, well, definitely a changed side. They'd done their job the previous Wednesday in qualifying for the Champions League through winning the Europa League. I don't think they really cared at all. And in the manager Ange's words, he hasn't really cared in the league since January. And fair play, they did what they needed to do, and they're in the Champions League next year. And I think they've got a decent chance of reaching at least the playoffs, I imagine. So goal scorers here were Hinshelwood 2 goals for Brighton, then O'Reilly with a pen, and Gomez. For Solanke scored for Tottenham in the first half with a penalty himself. Triple tiers, none for Tottenham. For Brighton, Weaver with the tackles, Webster and Van Heck with the passes, and Hinshelwood and Gomez was off the bench, both with the shots. Then last but not least, Wolves 1, Brentford 1. Goal scorers were Menetzi, who equalised, and Mbeumo for Brentford. Triple tiers, Jose Sarr with the saves, João Gomez with the tackles, and Cunha with the shots for Wolves. And for Brentford, just Flecken again with triple tiers. Just say hello to a couple of people in the chat. Evening Dave Hannigan. Evening Michael Blackburn, who says, thanks to you and Mike for the time and effort put into creating the game at such short notice. Phase 2 also looked and worked great. Roll on August. Oh, that's very kind of you, Michael. And David says, fully agree. Oh, thank you very much, gents. I'm glad you found the exercise worthwhile. So let's have a look at how the overall leaderboard finished up. And as you can see, it was changed in the last week. Adrian Gage, with a massive 124 points, jumped up into first place with his team Ruby's Warriors with 3,554 points. Well done, Adrian. Julian Wardle was knocked down to second with his Holly's Heroes, 3,549. Neil Fleeson was third. Romelu Villa, 3,539. Then rounding out the top 10, we had Mark Berry, Jez Page, Mark McFadden, Shane White, Mark Williamson, Tony Stolberg, and Elliot Mann. Well done to each of you. So the Fantasy Football Hub Members Prize League. First place Julian Wardle, second place Mark Berry, third place Mark Williamson. They've all been informed how to claim their prizes. Thanks very much to Fantasy Football Hub for putting up a prize. Rounding out the top 10 in that one was Kelvin Guest, Barry Morrison, Dean Hicks, Albert Welch, Mark Hawes, Dale Pointer, and Dominic Moran. And then Tim Barry's Cash League. So top 4 here, I think, we're in for prizes. So Julian Wardle, Mark Berry, Jez Page, Mark McFadden, and I know that Tim has been in touch with all of them and probably paid them out now already. And rounding out the top 10 of this league was Shane White, Mark Williamson, Tony Stallberg, Dean Hicks, Albert Welch and Mark Hawes. And then we had the Phase 2 beta testing leaderboard that Michael has noted to in his comment. Looked well and worked great. Or worked well and looked great. So Craig was the winner of this with his team Zippy as an Asshole. 973 points. This just ran through all April and May. And we had 50 transfers to play with. It was quite good fun. For those that don't know Craig, he is part of the Man on FPL pod, Craig Kemp. So give him a listen as well if you play FPL. Second place was Leon Wolf with Vinny's Victors. Third place, John Logan, FPL Spartans, who's been very supportive of the game throughout the year. Thank you very much, John, with 958 points. Then rounding out the top 10 here was Dale Pointer, yours truly, Melvin Paul, Peter Clinch, Stephen Grieve, Michael Blackburn, who's in the chat, and Edith Blackburn. Well done, everybody there. Then we had the Phase 2 Cloudy Sky FF Show League. So those that have been watching the show. So a couple of different names there. So Craig and John were at the top. Then yours truly, Steve Grieve, Michael Blackburn, Dave Hannigan, who's in the chat, he was 6th. Aaron Oldroyd, 7th. Laurie Wemyss, 8th. Tim Barry, 9th. Nathan, 10th. 11th was Martin Brown. And in 12th place was Mike Warlow. And then the Patrons League, I managed to sneak in at the top at the end. Peter Clinch, 2nd place. Aaron, 3rd. Tim Barry, 4th. David Baxter in 5th. And Elliot England in 6th. So let's have a look at how things looked way back when in July, August, when I was putting a team together. On the left, you can see the one that I'd initially put forward. Onana, Saliba, Romero, Dunk and Anderson. Rodri, Gross, Guimaraes, Smith Rowe, Haaland and Salah. That was one on, I think, 1st or 2nd week of August that I put forward on the pod as the team I was going to go with. Then Gross got sold. Rodri got injured. And the team on the right of the screen was the one that eventually took the field for me. And as you can see, it didn't do any favours whatsoever. So I had Dean Henderson in goal, which was a good move. At the back, Gvardiol, who has been fine. Romero, who did well at the start of the season. Saliba, who was a decent player. But Kwanzaa, he played 45 minutes and then was hooked by Arne Slot in the first Liverpool game away at Ipswich and wasn't seen regularly throughout the rest of the season. Declan Rice was in the side, who was a reasonably good player, but didn't do much in this format. Got himself sent off as well in about week 4 or 5. Bruno Guimaraes, who's been fairly good. Alexis McAllister, who didn't start off well for Liverpool. He's done better for them as the season's gone on, but he hasn't really troubled the Cloud Sky scoring system. Erling Haaland was still in. Alexander Isak was in. And then the dubious choice was to go for Muniz of Fulham. They had a single game there, if everybody remembers. They lost to Manchester United. Smith Rowe, who was the popular pick, having moved from Arsenal to Fulham to cover the Fulham fixtures, and he was cheap, did really well for about the first 2 or 3 months. And obviously the player that I didn't have in the side at the start was Mo Salah, and he has been pulling up trees left, right and centre. So then we have a look, see how it evolved. So the best team at game week 8, and the reason I put game week 8 up here is it was the second international break. Now, we didn't have an overhaul in Cloud this year because it was too difficult to work through, but in phase 2 we will have an overhaul, and I very much expect it'll either be in the September or October international break. The reason being is that from the following season, the September and October international break is being combined, so that will almost certainly be when an overhaul occurs. So the best team at game week 8 was Haaland, Palmer, Salah, Jackson, Romero, Konate, Kovacic, McNeil, Sells, Dalot and Pinnock. You note there we've got heavy hitters at the top with Haaland, Salah and Jackson. Palmer was in as an expensive midfielder. Kovacic, who had taken over from the injured Rodri, doing very well. McNeil had a good start to the season. Sells was doing well for Forest. Then a couple of cheaper defenders that had started the season well, Manchester United and Brentford. My team at this point, I'd already moved on the goalkeeper to Muric. Lord only knows why. I'd got Romero, still had Robinson. Murillo was brought in. I think they played Monday and a Friday as back-to-back single game days. Those that went for Chris Wood then did really well, if I remember correctly. I'd got Palmer, Saka, Tyler Dibling. What on earth was all that about? I think he'd played well in one game. He was something like 2.1 million. Southampton had a single game day. Utter disaster. I jumped on the McNeil bandwagon, and that wasn't going very well at the time. So I'd still got Haaland. Salah had come into the side, thank goodness, by then, and Brian Mbeumo. And he was doing well. So then we have a look at the best team up from that international break up until just about Christmas. So best teams then was Salah, Isak and Mbeumo. Palmer was still there. Henderson was back in goal. Back forward changed a bit. Hall was doing particularly well for Newcastle. Saliba and Van Dijk and Murillo, who I'd had in the side but then taken out after those single game days. Forest were pulling up clean sheets every other week, or so it seemed. Bruno Fernandes, who, even though Manchester United weren't doing much, has been pretty consistent all season long. And Savinho, who was in a bit of a purple patch for Manchester City. My team at the time was Sells, so I'd got the keeper. I'd changed him again. Robinson I'd still got. Van Heck had come back after a very short month off absence. If I remember right, he was ruled out for 4 weeks and he played like a week later. So he was back in the side. Van Dijk and Saliba were still there. I'd got Palmer. Foden had come in for an injured Saka. He'd done all right for about 2 weeks and he didn't do much afterwards. Gordon had come in. I think that was for an injured Bowen. Salah, Jackson and Solanke. I think that must have been for a single game day, or certainly attractive fixtures for Tottenham, I imagine. And then the best team from January to the end of the season, so sort of in the second half really. So Salah, Gvardiol, Fernandes, Cucurella, Jarrod Bowen, Wissa, Munoz, Van Dijk, Isak, Eze and Flecken. And my finishing team was Sells in goal, because I didn't change after he was back. Saliba, Munoz and Van Dijk at the back. Palmer, who I think stayed in the team all the way through, even though he did nothing really after Christmas. Kluivert, who was good for a stage but then sort of dropped off. Murphy, he was a revelation in the back end of the season. Bowen, who was back in, doing very well sort of April, May. Fernandes, who I think once he was in stayed. No, he was brought in after I missed the Gvardiol trick at the start of May. Salah, who'd only been taken out when Liverpool didn't have any fixtures. And Mbeumo, who's been a standout all season. So this is a graphic of my ins and outs. I'm not going to go through all of these. Those that have been watching the shows, I've probably talked through the decisions as and when they were made. But safe to say there's a few people there that you shouldn't really be making transfers on. if we've learned anything in this game, 40 transfers is not very many at all. If you don't have an overhaul, you've got to be protective of them. And because I got off to a bad start, I always seem to be chasing my tail and never really caught up. I mean, look at the guys there like Morsey. What was all that about? Ipswich, they were terrible. Dibbling, as already mentioned. Rodri was a bit unlucky. He came in and he was injured straight away. Pedro, I think that was a single game day or two for Brighton. Jackson, who was doing well at a time. Gvardiol's been in and out a couple of times there. Cliver was in because he was cheap and didn't really do much afterwards. Semenyo, in and out. Was that for Bournemouth fixtures? I think it must have been. Oh yeah, so Van Dijk left and Salah left at the same time. Yeah, I think that's when Liverpool had played all of their league games and then didn't have any for a while. And then the other one was Saka down at the end. He came back for the Ipswich game, I think, and then he didn't play the next one. But yeah, all in all, not overly impressive. Rank of 123. It's not the kind of thing I like to be shouting about on these. But that's the way it goes. You can't win them all, and I'll be back for more next season. So let's have a look at the players that did actually do well then. So these are from the Transfer Planner stats, and these are the top players for the season. So Salah at the top, 332, well ahead of next best, who's Mbeumo, then Haaland, Palmer, Isak, Gvardiol, Van Dijk, Bruno Fernandes, Wissa. Pickford ended up with the top scoring keeper. Bowen, Cunha, Henderson, one of the cheapest starting keepers, and those that have had him all season have done fantastic. Watkins did well in fits and starts. Munoz has been dirt cheap and fantastic since he's got into the cloud teams. Saliba and Konate, very reasonably priced and pulling up plenty of clean sheets for Arsenal and Liverpool. Sells doing the same for Forest. Chris Wood, those that had him, done very well, cheap, scoring in clumps. If you've had him and then moved him on for, say, Wissa at the end of the season, you'll have done well for both. Raya, another bit more expensive goalkeeper, but Arsenal have been keeping clean sheets. Diaz, striker in cloud. Hopefully when we do the phase 2, he'll go back to being a midfielder. I've got a bit of a plan for how we're going to work those out, but it needs to be discussed with those that are going to run the game over the summer. Kovacic's been great since he got in for Rodri. Mateta, another one, scored a lot of goals, and Strand Larsen. So Wolves have had not a great season, but they've got 2 strikers in the top 25 players. And if we look at the tier points, so not going to go through all of these, but the top 3 here are Kovacic, Bruno and Van Dijk. But do have a bit of a note here. So those players that are in both the top of the overall points and the top of the tier points are Kovacic, Fernandes, Van Dijk, Gvardiol, Konate, Saliba, Mbeumo, Semenyo and Salah. And the lowest sort of ratio of their points for overall, they've got 2/3 of their points elsewhere out of the tiers. And if you look at the 4th place player there, Thomas Partey, 73 tier points. He's only got 53% more of non-tier points. So I think the learning here is you want guys that are going to be keeping clean sheets. So Van Dijk and Gvardiol, their bread and butter has been clean sheets. I think Van Dijk had 14 throughout the season. So 14 fights, 90 points. Gvardiol was similar. And then, so Salah, 57 tier points, but he's got 330 overall points. So that's like the best part of nearly over 5/6 of his points are non-tier. And you look at Fernandes, see how many points he finished up with overall. So Bruno Fernandes, 210. So, and he's got 80 in the tiers. That means he's got 130 that aren't. So most of the guys that are doing well, they want to be getting a third of their points in tiers and over 2/3 of their points outside of tiers. So clean sheets, goals, assists. Then we look at the points per million. So there's going to be some expensive guys here that you need to get all of your points. So Salah, 46 points per million, but you need him. He's got 332 points. Then you look at Mbeumo, second, but so much cheaper, so much better value. Then a bit further down the list, you can see Crystal Palace players there, Henderson and Munoz, over 70 points per million. So you get those guys in, and they're in the top 15 there for overall points. And then you'll get in cheap players that do well, and then you've got plenty of money to spend on the more expensive ones elsewhere. And this is listed in value order. So Munoz, Henderson, Murillo, Semenyo, who was only 2.9 in this game. You can sort of read them all off there. So the best value pick there looks to be Mbeumo. He's ahead of the curve. He's second on points and 6th on value. We've got the same thing here for strikers. So you're going to see similar kind of names. And their tier points, and Mbeumo's at the top, it's only 58. And pretty much all of these are going to be shots. So Salah's got, looks like 3 passing points there, and everything else is in shot tiers. So again, a value pick, Mbeumo, Wissa, Semenyo, Strand Larsen, Delap even. Again, there they all are listed, and there Salah and Isak are the outliers there, ahead of the average. Just look at how many points they've scored. So look at midfielders, Cole Palmer out in the lead, then Fernandes and Bowen. I mean, they've been the 3 standouts. So I guess Saka would have been up there if he'd have had more injury-free. But yeah, these are Eze's come on strong at the end. Kovacic's been fairly consistent all the way through. A couple of strange ones there. Tielemans done well. Mitoma, who's been in and out the side lately. Iwobi. But we found in the midfield section, because so many in TFF of the attacking midfielders were classified as strikers, there's a bit of a graveyard. Nobody was really playing more than 3 of these at any one time. And it looks like you needed to get Palmer, Fernandes and Bowen, which means you were the cheap on defence, which fortunately, when we get down there, you'll see some cheap defenders that worked and played well. So these are the tiers. So again, Kovacic and Fernandes at the top, Partey in 3rd. Casido would have been another one you're not getting many other points out of. Tielemans and Gay the same. So the aforementioned McAllister there, he got 57 tier points. Don't know how many points he got all together. Is he on the top of the list? So no. So he's going to be on less than 125 anyway. So a couple there that are standing out for value. But you notice that the values are much less. So a good midfielder for points per million here is 54, which is Murphy. And then we have Cliver at 53. And Dye in the middle, pretty much because he was a striker in other games, but he was the outlier in TFF. He was actually a midfielder. And there we see Murphy and Cliver and Dye at the top on value. So these are defender points. So Gvardiol sneaking in at the top ahead of Van Dijk, but those two look well clear of the others. Munoz, who's had a cracking season, in 3rd. Then Saliba and Konate. So bonus points there. Van Dijk at the top and Gvardiol. Then you've got the likes of Mazraoui and Van Heck. I mean, I had Van Heck for a lot of the time. Yeah, he did get the odd bonus, but because Brighton were never keeping any clean sheets, he was never doing well enough to outweigh the likes of Munoz or Colwill, even the Nottingham Forest players who didn't get much on tier points, well clear on clean sheets or even attacking returns for one of them, as we'll see later. So top of the values here was Munoz 71, then we have Murillo, again 2.3 I think, dirt cheap in the game, 68. And there they are in value order. I'll send out these slides on social media, put them in the Patreon as well, so people can use them at their leisure if they want to have a look back. So these were the goalkeepers. So Pickford, Henderson, Sells, Raya above 180 points. But as previously with a lot of these Sky Cloud games, pick one, keep one. I mean, I had 3. I'd have been better off just keeping one. And I'm sure a lot of people that have been on Flecken, because he did get quite a lot of tier points. And if you had him at the end of the season, as we saw on the graphic, he was in the team of the season for the second half. There he is at the top of the shops on the saves. So value there, Henderson 70, nobody else above 60. So as we suggested, if you'd got him and kept him, very good indeed. And there he is on the value. So this is a zombie team of the season. If you'd have put this team together, so Henderson, Gvardiol, Van Dijk, Munoz and Milenkovic, Bowen, Fernandez and Palmer, and Mbuemo, Salah and Wissa, they would have scored you overall 2,430 points, which is 67%, so 2/3 of the winning total, without using any transfers and with no captaincy to double up any of the points. So you can see the key to this is the number of minutes played, so MP running down the middle there. All but 2 over 3,000, some very close to 3,500. The 2 that are sort of a bit of an outlier are Wissa and Bowen, but because they performed so well, even though they were under 3,000 minutes, they still got the points. So you can see where most of the points are coming from. Goals, obviously. I mean, if football is a goals game, so 648 goal points, 198 assist points. We have 263 clean sheet points, 44 save points, tackle bonus 148 points, passing bonus 162, and shot on target bonus 267. So there's something to look at for next year. You've got shot tiers for the better players are nearly as much again as tackle and passing tiers combined. Again, it's a goals game, isn't it? So 648. I mean, obviously you've got different amounts of goal points there. If you average 6, that's still 110 goals, which is not bad really. So a quick look at what's coming for next season. We had a look at this last week. So those guys that are on Patreon, I put a message in there yesterday. So I've paused any charges from now up until sort of 2 months' time, so at the end of July. Gives us a chance to put the game together. We know what the setup's going to be, but we do need to work out players and teams and prices and positions. That'll be something we do sort of as and when other games get put together. So we imagine sometime in mid-July, hopefully, or mid to end of July, we'll get a launch of Phase 2 for Cloud. A couple of things that are already set in stone. So we're going to revert to the SkyFF styles or formations. So no 5-4-1 that was allowed in TFF this year. Captain is back. So it's going to be 1 per fixture day, settable in advance, but you're going to need to pick one, not guaranteed to get the best one. Transfer allowance, quantity to be confirmed, 40 or 50 I imagine, but no maximum per game week. So if you want to do 11 in a week, you will be able to. The game weeks will revert from Friday to Thursday, So rather than going from Tuesday to Monday, which Telegraph did, return of the overhaul. Time to be confirmed, but I think it'll be either the September or the October international break. And then for those that want to play in leagues where you can set your team to private, you will be able to. And there will be a choice for those that play in leagues. If you need to set your team to public, you can. So that's how things panned out for the inaugural Cloud FF. A couple of thank yous from me for Mike Warlow, also known as FF Stuff, who's done a lot of the hard yards in the background. Mike, without your help, it wouldn't have been possible. And I'd like to also thank Tim Barry, who's done a lot of promotion for Phase 1. Again, without that, I doubt we'd have had as many players as we've had. I'd like to thank everybody that's joined in and played in Cloud Fantasy Football this year. Hope to see you back for what we think is going to be a bigger, better, bespoke game in 25-26. For those that have watched the shows, thank you very much. For those that have joined on Patreon to use the transfer planners, they'll be back for next season as well. Yeah, so I've enjoyed myself. I'll be back to do this again next year, and hopefully you'll be back to join as well. So thanks very much for watching, everybody. If you've enjoyed the video, please give it a like, and we'll see you after the summer holidays. Take care, everybody. Bye for now.